Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet, brought to you by Anarchapulco, the world's largest anarcho-capitalist conference, this February 19th to 21st, 2016, right here on the beach behind me in Acapulco, Mexico. I have a great guest coming in, Christian Blaze, coming in from Vancouver, Canada. He's been putting together for a number of months, and I've been in contact with him on putting together a series called Deathrow Democracy that I think is really interesting. And I'm actually going to read a bit of the synopsis of this show to give you an idea of what it's about. That says, as humanity transitions its hierarchical systems to their decentralized counterparts, the world is split in two. On the one hand, those clinging to power, believing that a select few must rule over the vulgar majority. On the other, those who believe in the decentralization of power, democracy, and the empowerment of the individual. The political system, fighting to protect itself from change, morphs into a vicious oligarchy, willing to do anything to hold on to power. Libertarian cyberpunks birth a decentralized, untraceable cryptographic digital currency and deliver it to the masses. At last, a glimmer of hope. A peaceful resistance is born, challenging the status quo by merely doing business in new and innovative ways that take power from the state and decentralize it. I'm actually going to play the trailer for Deathrow Democracy, what they have planned for it right now, just so you can get even more of an idea of what it's all about. So we'll play that and come right back.
Faster and faster, we circle the drain. It's like nothing has changed. They've up and done it again. Keep us covered in chains. If there's something to gain, the planet runs thick with chemical substance. From mountain peaks to valleys deep, nothing safe from corruption. Watch their economy rise, but they can always apologize, cause it doesn't cost a dime. They sleep softly at night, profit from crime, telling us water is not our right, crushing us to keep us in check. A runaway greenhouse effect, wait and see how it ends. Treason at best, faced with a permanent change for the worse, cursing fate, incurring the murderous rage of the earth. So fuck it, out for justice, we put action to work. Cut out the middleman and hit him back where it hurts. The systems will let us can't sit with this, we're sick from oppression. No more misdirection, locking off the limits infected. Live the deception, living for a sliver of vengeance. Get the message off the grid and on a mission to end it. No more jeopardizing freedom just to keep us impeded. We have stepped up to fight wherever we are needed. Decentralize everything, just achieving our meaning. Cause the people united can never be defeated.
So as you can see, really interesting. We have Christian Blaze on. They're doing some crowdfunding to get this series produced right now and doing some very innovative ways of doing it, all including things like Bitcoin and the blockchain. Very interesting stuff, a very interesting guy. So glad to have you on, Christian. And before we get started, though, I have to check your street cred. How did you become an anarchist?
That's a really interesting question. And I was actually thinking about that one for quite a while. The first time you mentioned it, or that I saw you ask your guests on the show. And I was talking to a friend about it, and he told me, well, aren't we already living in anarchy? Like, isn't everybody just doing what they want to do or what they think is right anyways? And some people choose to, organize into governments and stuff like that. But in essence, I guess nature is anarchy.
Absolutely. And so did you come to understand these sort of ideas over time? Were you more of a statist before, for example?
I was born in Central America, in El Salvador, during the Civil War down there. And so that probably had an influence into how I think. So it was interesting because in El Salvador, there was certain propaganda being distributed or kind of like fed to the masses. And then there's a different propaganda that was being fed up here in North America. But I never really got to see that propaganda until we moved to Canada when I was a kid. Well, even when I was a kid, I didn't understand really what was going on. But now as an adult, with YouTube and everything, you can go back and see what they were telling people was going on in Central and South America, right? Which is totally divorced from reality if you're actually down there when it was going on. That's why, when I see that all the wars that are going on in the Middle East and everything, and they say, oh, terrorist this and terrorist that and blah, 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 it's just a way to separate us from them. Because living in El Salvador during the war, they were doing the same thing. They were trying to separate people down there, like that. Those are different, bad people. Don't think of them as human beings. And that's the only way people can. A lot of it has to do with racism, right? They use racism to trick people into fighting their fellow human beings. So that narrative has been used over and over and over again. And so that had for sure a big influence in the way that I think. And I also think that I don't think anybody can force anybody else to do or behave a certain way. Human beings will do whatever it is that they believe in their heart, even if it means that they have to die for it, right? So, from those points of views, I don't believe that there can be really a government that can, anywhere on the planet, that can really tell people how they should behave or act.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, propaganda is a big part of government. And thankfully now we have things like the internet and Bitcoin and the blockchain, so we can get our own viewpoints out there as well and sort of fight against the propaganda. And that's a little bit of sort of what this show is about, Deathrow Democracy. Tell us a little bit about where you came up for the idea and what you're doing with it.
So I came up with the idea 2 years ago. And it came out of kind of getting into Bitcoin and understanding how Bitcoin works. Once I kind of wrapped my head around the fact that you can have exchange of value without a trusted third party, it kind of blew my mind, and I realized the implications of how this technology can change the world. And so after that, I started thinking, what would kind of like the status quo, the people that have power right now, what would they feel if they truly understood what was going on? And so that's when I came up with the idea that there is a possibility. I don't think it's actually going to happen. It's possible that it does, but I don't think it's going to happen because at the end of the day, like even people that work in government, they're human beings, right? And if there's like a spiritual awakening of people around the world, I don't think we need to go into like another world war. But it remains to be seen. I mean, that's kind of where things are being pushed towards. The apparatus, the system that kind of like works on this centralized control hierarchy, sees war as an answer whenever we reach the points in our society that we're in right now. Like, there's no real escape from the financial problems that have been created over years and years and years, but war does solve those problems. But you have to convince people to get into war, right? So if you're able to do that, then you can go and reset the clock and go back and keep doing the same cycles, financial cycles that have been played out for years and years and years. And it will depend on people. Whether people decide, you know what, enough is enough and we don't want to have world wars anymore, like this doesn't make any sense, or not. Like, if there's enough people that believe in racism, believe in like hating other people's religions, believe in essence thinking that their point of view can be imposed on other human beings, if we continue down that narrative, we will have another world war. If there's enough people that wake up and they realize that no, you can impose things on other human beings, they will believe what they're going to believe, but we should respect each other, then I think there's some very positive and hopeful days ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to happen. It is happening. It's just going to take some time. I think your average person around the world doesn't want war, doesn't want all these taxes, doesn't want all these regulations. So we just have to keep getting that information out there. And I think that's a part of why your show could be very interesting. It kind of could show people a way that a different world could evolve. So tell us a little bit about the show itself and where you came up with the idea and what it's about.
So when I was doing research for Bitcoin at the time, like 2 or 3 years ago, I found out that there's a website called the Assassination market, and you can't access it unless you use like Tor anonymity software to go on it. And so I went on it because I'm curious, and it's in essence what it was like a Kickstarter for assassinations, which was pretty dark. I never thought something like that could even exist until that moment that I saw it. And I mean, I'm all for decentralization and all that sort of stuff. But then this came up and it kind of like created a moral dilemma within me. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm going, this can totally be abused for good or evil. Do you know what I mean? Some people would say it's all evil. Some people would say it's all good, right? I don't know enough because it's never happened before. Nobody really knows in which direction something like this could go, right? But I thought it would be really cool to explore it in a web series. So this web series is not just about the assassination market. It's kind of like an aspect of, but it's kind of like the hook of the show because people are interested in this sort of stuff, like extreme things that exist because of decentralization technology. There's a lot of positive stuff and there's a lot of dark stuff like this, or, it depends who you're asking, whether they think it's dark or good or whatever. But in the show, in essence, the world is split in two, and on the one side you have people that want to decentralize everything, and on the other side you have people that want to maintain control over how the world functions and how the world is governed. So out of that, we're going to follow storylines of different characters, and our goal is to be able to show both sides from a human point of view, so we can see the humanity that exists in the characters that believe in centralizing power, and see the humanity that exists in the people that want to decentralize power. And there's people making mistakes on both sides, and there's people doing good and evil on both sides. So I think that the moral of the show should be, or the goal of the show should be, to unite us more than divide us. But we're talking about something, in essence, in the show there's a lot of division. Like, it's very divided. It's almost like a mirror to show us, like, we could go down this path where there could be civil war and unrest all over the world, or we can learn from it, from a TV show. Well, it's a web series. And maybe we don't have to go down that path, because civil wars don't solve anything. It's just a bunch of killing until you get to the point where you realize that killing doesn't solve anything. And then you have to sit down and negotiate for peace. So you can negotiate for peace from day one. You don't have to go through civil wars. Unless it's profitable for you, then for sure you're going to promote it.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what the military-industrial complex does today. As far as Bitcoin kill lists go, the one thing I can say about Bitcoin kill lists, or will say, is that it would create a much more polite world because, and for people who don't know what Bitcoin kill lists are, this is often brought up by people who are anti-Bitcoin, anti-anonymity, anti-privacy, anti-decentralization. They'll say, well, there'll be Bitcoin kill lists, and there actually is, as Christian pointed out, there actually actually already is one. And I think Ben Bernanke was the top guy on there recently, which is kind of silly because not only is he retired, but he never really had any control of the Fed. He just reads off the teleprompter like Janet Yellen. But a real Bitcoin kill list could exist in our world today because of the technology. And so for people who don't understand them, because you can get onto these things quite anonymously, and if you're smart, you can do it pretty much anonymously, and you can contribute Bitcoin to it, which can be anonymous if you're smart about it. And you can have a case where somebody puts up a name and enough people put in enough Bitcoin, and there might be someone out there who doesn't mind killing people who might want to get that reward, and they can receive the reward if they do it. And so a lot of people get very scared about this, but I think it would create just a much more politer world. You'd see a lot of people being much more careful about how they treat others if they knew they could end up on a Bitcoin kill list.
The question is, we were talking about this with some of the other team members on the show, and we were wondering, could this be abused? Like, what if somebody had like millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin? Could they put a bounty on somebody that they just want dead? And then some killer out there could be like, you know what, that's a lot of money, I'll take it. I don't care what this person stands for. Could be another Martin Luther King or anybody, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you said there is these things can be used for good or evil, but they do exist today, and you can't get rid of them. So we might as well figure out what we think about them.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, the way that I'm starting to see the world now is that the most important thing is your intent behind things. Somebody can own a gun and their intent can be good, and somebody can own a gun and their intent can be bad. And it's not the gun's fault, right? What ends up happening with that person. And likewise, you could have bad intent with the internet or good intent with the internet. You could have bad intent with money. Like, nothing is inherently good or bad. I think we decide as a personal thing whether what we're doing is good or bad. And there's nobody that can judge you except yourself, right? And that feeling of whether you're doing something good or bad comes, or at least for me, it comes from a place that I can't explain, right? It's beyond my, some people will call it God, some people will call it the universe, what have you. There's something, I think, that's bigger than me that has an influence over me. It's kind of like, I see myself as like a little cell on a bigger body. So if you were to ask like one cell on your body, like, why is it that you feel the need to replicate, or why do you feel the need to grow into this other organ, or why do you feel the need to do whatever? The individual cells wouldn't understand what it is that they're doing. But you as a human being, you know the reason why you have ears and why you have a mouth and eyes and all that sort of stuff. And likewise, I think I look at human beings like individual cells of a bigger organism that we'll never understand, right? And it probably goes on into infinity, and it probably goes on into infinity in the other direction when you get into atoms and everything. Like, it doesn't matter which direction you look, up or down. It's all different states of organization that is just like incredible.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And we've been talking a lot about spiritual sort of related things here. I think it all ties in. And getting back to the Bitcoin kill list sort of a thing, I think you pointed out that that some people might use it for evil and they might kill the next Martin Luther King. Well, that already happened. And it was the people with a lot of money, and it actually was the CIA. It's all been admitted, and actually the Martin Luther King family won in court, showing that it was the CIA who did it. So we already have the bad guys out there, and they already have a lot of money. So now it's a chance for the good guys to also have that opportunity if they so wish. And I don't actually think that killing anybody solves anything. You can kill Barack Obama or George W. Bush or Dick Cheney or Donald Rumsfeld. It's not going to change a thing. In fact, it could even make things worse because...
Yeah, the only reason they exist is because we put them there, right? Like, they're a reflection of the masses' current understanding. And, like, most people right now, they still want to take responsibility and put it on a leader or somebody else and be like, you're responsible for this because it's too big for me to handle. And when people turn that around and say, you know what, I'm going to take responsibility of my life and my surroundings and my relationships with people, they don't need somebody dictating what it is they can and cannot do. You know what I mean? So once people kind of wake up to the fact that they only need that person telling them what to do because they don't want to be responsible for all this ugly stuff that they have to deal with, which is just called growing spiritually and emotionally, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Violence definitely is not the solution to getting a more peaceful and more prosperous and more decentralized world without rulers. And it's definitely not the answer, but it is out there. So it is interesting to talk about, what this technology could be used for, and to actually look at it. So I know with the show that you also are doing some very interesting things, not just in the show itself, but actually in the creation of the show, including you're on a .bit domain and other things. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the show, we're going to release the episodes first on a .bit domain, Deathrow Democracy.bit. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's after Bitcoin, there was another coin created called Namecoin. And it's in essence the same system as Bitcoin, except they function to provide a decentralized DNS system for anybody that wants to put up a website that can't be censored, because the only one that can control what IP address it points to is the owner of the private key. So what that means is, even if somebody, let's say somebody like WikiLeaks, right? WikiLeaks is a great example because they're posting stuff that's really controversial and they get shut down all the time. And, Julian Assange, he's under surveillance and all this. Like, they're constantly trying to shut down the release of the information that they have. So if they were to use a .bit domain, which I don't know if they do, but they might already, they can quickly switch the IP. So even if they raided the hosting provider that hosted the WikiLeaks website, they could easily just switch to a different IP, and within half an hour you're up and running in China or Russia or Africa or wherever, anywhere in the world. And it becomes very difficult to shut it down. Whereas right now they just have to be able to control the ICANN DNS registry organization or whatever, and they do. A lot of domain names, they get shut down because they're copyright infringing, or I don't know, they have stuff on there that they're not supposed, or they're WikiLeaks or whatever, so they get shut down. But with .bit, you can't do that. Not that, our show is a fictional show and we're not doing anything that is going to warrant getting us shut down, at least not yet, I don't think. But we're doing it because I think it sends a powerful statement that this technology exists and everybody should use this sort of technology. It would just make the internet stronger and more robust and censor resistant, right? So, and again, people are going to argue, well, what about the pedophiles and the criminals and the drug dealers and all this other stuff? And it's the people doing harm out in the world is a small, minuscule, population compared to the good that comes from, the internet, right? So, you're always going to have to deal with people that are not doing the right thing and causing harm to others. But I don't think punishing the world for it, the rest of the people that aren't doing that, is the right direction to go. Some people think otherwise. Some people think that there should be control over the internet and that they or the group that they belong to know better or know what's best for the rest of the population. Which I think it's impossible. You'd have to know everything in the universe to conclusively know what's best for any one individual. You'd have to be God, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always laugh when people bring up the internet and how it needs to be more controlled. Of course, the internet was generally started around 1993. We're now more than 20 years into it. And I don't hear anyone saying, oh, this internet's a big problem. We should really shut it down or regulate it. And even when they always bring up child pornography, I always love that one because, I've been on the internet pretty much 18 hours a day for about 20 years. And I've never come across anything even close to child pornography. I'm sure there is on the internet somewhere child pornography, but if there is, it's very well hidden. And to say that that's why we need all these people to control the internet is ridiculous. And it's and just goes to show the internet was really a case of anarchy. It was a case of no one. It's still to this day, no one really controls it. There's certain countries that have some control, but you can get around it very easily. And there's no major problems on the internet that need to be policed. That's what anarchy is, and it really goes to show.
I do know that there is child porn on the internet. There's actually quite a problem on the planet. I think 1 in 5 people are sexually abused, but that has nothing to do with the internet. Again, it's like a problem that exists within people, right? Like it's I think, and this is my own personal opinion, because who knows, but I think it comes from the fact that people are so sexually repressed that they probably, and again, I could be wrong, but that's, if I were to guess, I would say people are sexually repressed. And because usually, it's like the priests or these guys that are so sexually repressed, those are the ones that are going after the kids because they're so innocent and easy to take advantage of, right? So the fact that the internet exists doesn't stop them from existing. It just means that there's another tool that they can use, but there's like a billion tools that they can use if they want to. I think a better way to deal with them is to figure out why it is that it's happening, talk about it, and, express, just dwell into that problem and try and figure out from like a mental illness point of view why that exists.
Yeah, absolutely, which we never really do in society today, right? It's so based on punishment and putting people in cages. There's really not a lot of ways that people can get help. And if you look at child pornography, most of the people, or not most, but a lot of the people who are doing it are the politicians, the police, the child protective services people. There's been lots of stuff coming out over in the UK. There's a lot of scandals, the royal family. So a lot of the people who say they want to rule over the internet to make sure there's no child pornography, quite often they're the ones that actually want this sort of things. So let's get off the child pornography part, though, because that's pretty depressing and sad. But let's talk about Deathrow Democracy. So you just started up a crowdfunding for it, I believe, just today as we're talking. And I'm just looking at it now. Your goal is $25,000. You have 3 months that you want to do it in. I think it's a great idea, and I think people, if you're an anarcho-capitalist or anarchist out there and you want to see these sort of programs get made, these are the kinds of things that you can support. So tell us a little bit about that.
It's very interesting because it's not like most crowdfunding sites that you would go to. So in most crowdfunding sites, you send money and then it accumulates, and then eventually you take that money and you use it to make the show. So we have the first episode that we've already shot on our own money. We spent, I think Crystal said, close to like $70,000 of our own money. And that's not even including the cast and crew's time. Like everybody that worked on it, they all work on big budget productions here in Vancouver, but they all decided to do this for no pay up front because they just love the idea, like the fact that we're doing something that's so innovative and progressive. And so what we did, and we didn't have to do this, like when they signed their contracts, they said, if you do crowdfunding, you don't have to pay us, because they just want to see the show get made. But what we decided to do, just because we think it's the right thing to do, is we're splitting it up. So, even through the crowdfunding, 25% of it gets split up and sent to every single cast and crew member that worked on the show. And they get a portion of it based on the amount of hours and time that they spent and their position on the show. But we don't even handle that. It's just a program. This is the cool thing about Bitcoin, is that you can program all this and have it just do it automatically. And then 25% goes to the investors, some people that put in money to help us out. And then the other 50% goes towards developing it further to do future episodes. So this first $25,000 is going to go towards finishing the 8 minutes or so that we've shot. It's like 7 or 8 minutes. It's like a micro episode. It kind of introduces you to the world, and we mainly explore the assassination markets. So that's basically what that first one is about. And then future ones will be, every episode will have like a different theme around this decentralization movement that is going on. So we're super excited. The other day, somebody sent us a tip for like $35 to one of the wallets. And Crystal and I, my partner and co-director and producer, we were like, we should just, because it takes a certain amount, it takes like $68 or so for there to be enough money in the wallet to be able to split it up, because some people only work like 1 day or a couple hours or whatever. So the Bitcoin they would receive from $68 is like the smallest Bitcoin payment that you can make. They might get like 1 cent or something like that, right? So that's kind of like our threshold. So as soon as it hits $68, it all goes out and gets sent to everybody that worked on it instantly. So we did a test the other day. It was the first time. We just let it run. And then it went out to everybody, and then everyone started like contacting us, going like, "Hey, I got 7 cents. Hey, I got like $1. Hey, I got this." And it was pretty satisfying, because you can't do that with the regular banking system. Like, it's impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see you're offering all kinds of great sort of things you can get if you donate certain amounts. So
Yep.
if you donate $25, you get a special thanks in the end credits. If you donate $250, you get associate producer credit, and it goes on and on all the way up to $5,000, where you can get an executive producer credit. So if you really like this and you have some money and you want to support it, you can become a part of what could be a really interesting project.
Yeah, it could be as small as $1, and that just gets you the episode. And then as you get higher up, like the cool thing, instead of just getting a credit in the film, we're going to register the credits on the blockchain. So it's going to be like immortalized forever, not just on the actual film. And then there's another cool thing we're going to experiment with, which is we're creating some artwork. And there's some companies out there now that are able to make digital artwork become like a unique piece. So normally you can copy digital pieces of art, right? And then everybody has it. But using the power of like the blockchain, you can now register a certain piece of art and transfer ownership of that piece of art so that only one person can have it. And you can actually verify that that piece of art belongs to you. And if somebody were to make a copy, they can have a copy of the visual image of it, but they won't be able to prove that they are the true and rightful owner of it, which is something new.
Yeah, that's great. There's so many new things coming out, new ways that we can change the world and affect new things all through this technology, which you're taking advantage of. So why don't you let people know where they can go to find out about Deathrow Democracy, where they can go to find out about the crowdfunding, and anything else you want people to know?
Yeah. So most of our social media is on deathrowdemocracy.com. If you want to watch the first episode, you can go to deathrowdemocracy.bit. And the easiest way to access the .bit domain names right now is just go on Chrome. There's a plugin called .bitme. And if you install that, then you can access the .bit domain. And then our crowdfunding is on the deathrowdemocracy.com website. There's a link to it. If you click on the Bitcoin logo, that will take you to fund.deathrowdemocracy.com.
shop.deathrowdemocracy.com, and that's where you can support us. Another cool thing is in the future we're going to be having voting, so we'll have like different things that are going to be happening on the show, and people will be able to vote using cryptocurrency on what they want to have happen, or like which character should die, or which one should escape, or which one should get caught, like all these different things. So we'll have a lot of interaction between the fans and the show.
That's great. It's very interesting. So I hope people support it. I hope you get it out there. Great to have you on. If you're interested in all these sort of things, including Bitcoin, we're going to have a lot at Anarchapulco coming up February 19th to 21st. A lot on Bitcoin and the blockchain and technologies and how they can change the world, including people like Roger Ver, the Bitcoin Jesus, Trace Mayer, who's a big name behind Bitcoin and involved in almost everything important about Bitcoin. Also, Jose Rodriguez of Bitso, the largest Bitcoin exchange in Mexico. He'll be here, and a lot of other people, including Tone Vase. So many people. So if you're interested in that, you might want to check it out. But definitely check out Deathrow Democracy. We'll have the links all down below. And I'd like to thank Christian Blaze for being on with us today. And that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
Concept of digital scarcity really excited me because I knew this was going to pave the way for entirely new industries to be built upon this concept, and it's really digital scarcity. I can't really stress that term enough. It's a new word that in the 21st century we're going to have to get used to, because we're used to unlimited data.
Bitcoin is not only the coin, as we most know, and I hope more people will get into this and see that it's not only a coin, but it's also a system. One of these applications, of course, is Bitcoin, and it's also a financial system. It's the most transparent and uncorruptible system I have seen from the insights up till now.
DNS is the secret sauce that makes it all work. So all of the current and future battles over control, over choke points, over freedom of speech, what's permitted, what's not permitted, it's all going to take place in the DNS sphere.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.